This is Ketura, back looking at Star Wars CCG Gemp. Today we are going to be doing some development with cards. Specifically, we're going to be developing tests for cards, and I'll be going over the same sort of stuff that we did on the previous stream, where we will be investigating how to utilize the new test rig to be testing new development. So let me pull up my itinerary here. So there's 4 things that we're going to be going over. They're not nearly as big or in-depth as the stuff that we did last stream, so they should go somewhat faster. First is we're going to be taking an example card, that of Son of Skywalker, and we're going to look at the card, come up with what test cases ought to exist for this, and then actually write those tests beginning to end in the IDE, starting from scratch, so you get to see the entire process, how the sausage is made. And so you can utilize that same process when writing tests for other cards. Second thing that we're going to do is we're going to showcase how to utilize the unit test rig to debug issues. So there is a particular bug that I fixed that had an extremely simple answer eventually, but the process of debugging was rather complicated, and we are going to utilize, so I'm going to break the code, recreate that bug, and then showcase how exactly to use the test rig to debug a complicated issue. And then after that, that is going to be taking us, so this issue is going to be taking us into the bowels of the modifier querying system. And so as an aside, we're at that point, I'm going to go over the functionality that I added for Rebel Flight Suit. So if you find yourself in a situation needing to add new functionality, what's the kind of thing that you need to be doing? And I'll show where that sort of stuff was added, so you can kind of get an idea for what might need to change if you are adding brand new functionality for a card. And then after that, Gergall has been so kind as to create some test cases for us for actual live bugs that are current in the Star Wars CCG Gemp. And so we're going to go take those test cases, we're going to write them up as test rig test cases, and we're going to hopefully get them into a position where they act as a jumping off point for anybody that is going to be looking to actually fix those bugs. So yeah, I'll be doing an awful lot of live development here. I will try to not be quiet and let my actual thought processes come out, but someone poke me if it looks like I'm being silent for too long. With me, I do have Gergall and VHD, and it looks like Echo Base Troopers also joined us. Welcome. And if any of you have any questions while we're going through this, just stop me and we'll go over anything that might be related to this. If it's something a little more in the weeds or off to the side, I may table it, but anything that is related to any of these test case development situations, we should be on topic here. So, any questions before we get started?
No, that sounds awesome.
Great. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look here at Son of Skywalker. So, I believe this was submitted by Gergall as an example because it does happen to touch a few different systems that have not already been coded against.
I just wanted to mention, in case anyone got confused, it's the Son of Skywalker virtual card, not the original.
Oh, you want the virtual card? Okay, well then.
Oh, sorry. Were you? Never mind. If you were preparing to do I was not. Let's do that.
I had no preparation whatsoever except this image being up here, so I just need to pull up a different Son of Skywalker.
The original would probably be kind of straightforward, so if you're looking for an easier one, and the virtual gets into some weird stuff.
Cool. Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. That's me being unfamiliar with the card pool there. Okay, yeah, so we're going to go over this and pick apart what sort of things we might need to be testing here. And then I will just go right into it. We'll set up a test class and we'll start typing away. So what we have here is in the text, someone correct me, this is the piloting symbol, right? So you have piloting 2.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you had the screen share up. Let me just get that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so if you're in Discord, yeah. So this little symbol here, that's piloting 2, right?
That is correct. He's adding 2 to the power of anything he pilots.
Oh, so that's what that means. Okay, so adds 2 to the okay. All right. I had no idea. So you guys may need to walk me through some of those more basic stuff.
That's just a shorthand. Yeah. Yep.
Got it. Okay. During battle, characters hit by Luke may not fire weapons. Okay. So that seems relatively straightforward. So we're going to have to put together a battle with somebody holding a weapon. Luke is going to have to hit them first, and then we'll ensure that the guy he hits is not able to use his weapon. Is this taken to hand or which one is that?
It's actually deploy from the reserve deck during your deploy phase.
Okay, may deploy Anakin's lightsaber here at his location from the reserve deck. You said. Okay.
Yep.
If a battle just initiated at same site, unless a vehicle here, may target a Dark Jedi here. For remainder of battle, exclude all other characters, and then immune to attrition less than 4. Okay, let's just put this over here on the side, and we are going to start typing up some just more freeform test cases. Okay, so we have adds 2 to the power of anything he pilots. All right, and then we have hitting a dark side character with a weapon that dark side character cannot use their weapon. We have may deploy Anakin's lightsaber from reserve during the deploy phase, I assume? Just the deploy phase? Or is that able to be done anytime?
Nope, that's deploy phase.
Okay, all right. If a battle just initiates, okay, and then we have a battle ability that, okay, excludes everyone except a Dark Jedi from battle.
Everyone except Luke and a Dark Jedi.
Except Luke and a Dark Jedi. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, the way it's worded is maybe a little cheaty because there was no text space left.
Right.
But if you only left the Dark Jedi, then the battle would end because there'd be no one for the Dark Jedi to fight against.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's everyone except Luke and the Dark Jedi.
Right. Makes sense. And the battle ability does not work if a vehicle is present.
Or there.
There.
Sorry to get all. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. And then immune to attrition less than 4. All right. So most of these don't really seem to have much of a negative test that we can really hit. A lot of things that you might look at, it would be really easy to look at it and say, okay, well, it says that such and such only works with X, so if I have Y, it should not trigger, right? We do have that circumstance with the battle ability where it explicitly carves something out, so we can check and make sure that the abilities does not work if there's a vehicle there. Attrition, immune to attrition less than 4. I suppose that is something that ends up being kind of double tested. So if we have something where there is attrition that equals 4, then they are not immune. Normally, I would not bother with such tests if the test ecosystem was real mature, but considering that there's a lot of stuff that isn't yet tested, it may make sense for us to do this, just because it might be the first time or even just the second time that a particular card has been tested against that. But for the rest of these, like for instance, may download may deploy Anakin's lightsaber here. There's not really a good way to test the inverse of that, right? Like, I mean, sure, we could put him in a deck that doesn't have Anakin's lightsaber and then make sure that nothing happens, but there's not a whole lot testable there. So I think that this is going to be what we'll start with, and if we happen to run into any edge cases or whatever, we'll add some cases. So we've got ourselves 7 different situations. 2 of them are going to
for the lightsaber. You could test if Anakin's lightsaber is already on the table. He wouldn't be able to deploy a new copy.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, let's see if Anakin's lightsaber already on table, cannot use deploy action. Okay. All right, so 8 cases, and if we come across any more, then we'll find some more. I'm going to be relying on you guys as my search engine for cards because I don't know any of these, obviously. So if we, like for instance, when we're trying to come up with a vehicle, I'm pretty sure a Dark Jedi is just Vader or whatever, but I may need some suggestions of what specific kinds of characters and weapons and whatnot to include. And so I may be reaching out to the Peanut Gallery for input on that.
Cool.
Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do is almost always when I'm making a test like this, I end up just copy pasting a set of tests that already exists because I cannot be arsed to actually type it all out manually. So we're going to be looking for something light side because that is going to, especially a light side character, because that should match up the closest. So I'm just going to try and grab one of the, I believe the Rebel Trooper is one. Yeah, so we're going to copy this Rebel Trooper. So I believe I could just go into copy and then paste. And we are gonna, I need the actual number, hang on. Title, Son of Skywalker, we're doing the V version. So this is gonna be that right there. We're gonna duplicate our, that's right, just copy, paste. And then we're gonna call this card, whatever that was. So now we have ourselves a new test case, and then I'm going to be moving it over into the proper hierarchy because things could get messy. So we're going to move this over to, what was that, set 224?
Or just 24.
Just 24?
It depends how you named the folders.
Well,
set
so
24.
far I have literally just been naming them the same number, but
okay, so
I had no idea that there
be
was a convention
224
there.
because it's a virtual set.
Okay, got it. All right, I'll just...
The set it's in is set 24 is what it's called, but
I gotcha.
224 is the right number.
I'll just do 224 for now, and maybe at some point someone can refactor this stuff.
I agree.
But okay.
I agree. That's
No,
that's
the way
right.
it is good. It should not be changed.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. In that case, so I'm using the refactor functionality. Just right-clicked and went to refactor, and that is going to let me move that over, and then it will have popped it down here. So I'm going to double-click on that, and now we've got our freshly copied setup. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to move the card that I'm referencing over here to the right. So I've got these multiple panes open. Let me just shrink that down. So we've got ourselves Son of Skywalker. One of the very first things I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this stuff over. It's going to be a bit tedious, but I'm going to do it anyway because I find it to be extremely useful to have an all-in-one reference of everything that that card does in one spot so that I don't have to keep switching back and forth between different windows or whatever. So all of this is the same, right? He's still a subtype of Rebel. His destiny is 1. His deploy is 5. His power is 5. Ability of 5. And then we'll just keep going down the line. His forfeit is 8. Icons. Now this is one that I'm a little shakier on. Looks like he's
got pilot, warrior, and he's got a couple set icons, which I guess we're including as well. I mean, you can just read them off there. It says Cloud City, Dagobah, Pilot, Warrior, and Virtual Set 24.
Got it. Okay. So
also, if you don't mind going back up near the top, it says Uniqueness Unrestricted. The top of your, the left page.
Oh, yes. This guy is unique. Yep,
So
I did miss that. And this was Virtual Set 24. Keywords. I don't know if there's any on here, but we can say that it is a persona of Luke. So, not that Luke. Species. Doesn't look like he has one.
Nope.
And then I'm going to go ahead and copy the game text. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of massaging here so that it will actually fit on one screen. Okay. And then do the same thing for the lore, because I know the lore can sometimes actually matter in this game, which is mysterious and strange to me, but when in Rome. Alright, so I think that is about everything on here. So now that we have our little,
you got a couple extra. Yeah, you can change that set premiere to, I guess, again, virtual set 24, or just set 24. Technically, I think just set 24 is correct. And then rarity, we call it rarity V, as you can see there.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm basically going to go down and we're going to be doing the same thing. I'm just going to call him SOS. Let me just get rid of the other ones in here because we don't know yet what we're going to be having. We do want to make sure that the ID matches. And then in our little test here, we're going to be making sure that we grab SOS. And now we basically have to do some more copy pasting and get all of the values here to be correct. So this is just going to be a very straightforward test that I always do for all of them that makes sure that all of the static information is correct. He's a light side, he's a rebel. I've never been able to figure out why the subtype stuff does not work for like character and such, but whatever. And then we're gonna grab the persona, right? Oh, it just has persona. Okay, so we will change this to a, we're checking that it is true. And then I assume that there's a persona.luke. There we go. And then we're just going to, once again, check that the destiny is 1, the deploy cost is 5. Power, or no,
Power
no,
5.
not power. Yeah, power 5.
Yeah, deploy
ability
5, power 5, ability 5.
Forfeit was 8, right?
8.
And then he does have a rebel, he does have a warrior, he is going to have pilot. And then there were the other icons that were the...
Dagobah and Cloud City.
Yeah, Dagobah and Cloud City. Dagobah, Cloud City, and the 24, so 24, right? Come on, 24. Okay, and if we go ahead and run this, I'm going to right click and run just that one. Oh, actually, I should rename it. So we still have our Rebel Trooper. This is going to be Son of Skywalker V. Stats and keywords are correct. And so that came back correct. So far, all of this stuff is good. So I'm going to come in and delete all of these test cases that existed for the Rebel Trooper except for one. I'm going to wipe out most of this stuff and start from scratch. And then we are once again saying Son of Skywalker V.
Do you have a test set up for whether it has the virtual suffix or not?
We could do that actually. I believe that that's just going to be one of the traits of the whatchamacallit, of the blueprint. So that should be just fine to add in here. So we can say assert true card dot virtual has virtual suffix. There we go.
Yeah.
Anything else y'all can think of that's a static trait like that for?
Just looking at the stuff on the right, that covers everything now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So first thing we're going to do here is we are going to change this to SOS because we are going to be testing something related to Son of Skywalker. And now we have to look at our list and start checking stuff out. So actually, first thing I'm going to do, now that I have kind of a bare bones skeleton with almost nothing in it, except for the actual pulling of the card, I'm going to make all of my tests and make them empty. So actually, first thing I'm going to do is put a failing test in here. We are going to make sure that that fails so that all of these will show up as I'm developing, that they will be not passing until everything is all filled in. So first he adds 2 to power of Sheppy pilots.
Anything he pilots, technically.
He pilots.
There is a difference,
okay.
Yeah.
Now we will copy this down. Next, so he had the battle ability, hitting character prevents them using a weapon.
Sure.
And then weapon suppression does not work with vehicle.
I think you're getting things mixed up. The thing about no vehicles, that has to do with the exclusion. You're jumping ahead.
I am jumping ahead. You're right. That is for the yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So that's not correct. So let's just wipe that out for now.
Yeah.
May deploy Anakin Sky. Okay. May deploy Anakin's Lightsaber from reserve. And then cannot use deploy action if Anakin's lightsaber on table. And then next is the battle ability. Okay. So we're just going to say battle ability excludes everyone from battle except self and Dark Jedi.
Sure.
And then this is the one that has the inversion.
Yeah, cannot use exclusion if vehicle there. Something like that.
Use battle ability if vehicle there. All right, and then immune to attrition less than 4. To attrition less than 4. And then we'll have our inverted.
I have a
immune
question
attrition.
about, kind of a philosophy question about this testing of the immunity.
Mhm.
So I think your intention is to create a test where he's facing some attrition, and
Mhm.
and you're going to do a test where he's facing 3 attrition and check if he's immune. Then you're going to do a test where he's facing 5 attrition or 4 attrition and confirm that he is not immune.
Correct.
That's your current plan.
Mhm.
How does that compare to a different plan where all you do is inspect him and see if he has the immune to attrition modifier on him? And you're just like, okay, he has the modifier, I'm satisfied, test complete, test passed.
So it may be possible that that is the right way to do things once we trust that the modifier is doing its job. And you guys have played hundreds or thousands of games on Gemp, and I'm sure you've witnessed it yourself happening. Myself,
Oh, sure.
I do not have this trust, right? This innate trust. And so when I'm the one sitting down testing it, I want to make sure that the actual ramification of being immune to 4 actually works, right? Whereas it could be totally acceptable if somebody that just knows in the back of their head that, yeah, I don't really need to test this. It's been tested a bajillion ways. We'd have hundreds of bug reports. If it wasn't working, I'm not going to worry about it. That could be perfectly acceptable. I could even get to that point if I were to sit down and actually write out a bunch of attrition specific tests that did in fact go over the system and kick the tires and make sure that everything was working properly. And then I might find myself in a position where I can say, okay, I have something that is checking that attrition is working. And so now I don't need to worry about it anymore in all the rest of my tests.
That was my next question, is like, would you want to have like some system tests where it's like, okay, here's a section where we test that, the attrition modifier works. And then all the other cards, all we do is test that they have the attrition modifier.
Yeah, that could definitely work. My intention with doing this is making sure that there is something that throws up a red flag if we alter the immunity system and then it stops working properly. So that when somebody goes in and makes changes to that system and then they run all the unit tests, and then what do you know? The 2 Son of Skywalker tests are no longer working. Because ideally, yeah, we would have tests for the systems themselves, but until that happens, well, I'd rather have something rather than nothing. So yeah, they're really just canaries in the coal mine there.
Great, thanks.
Okay, all right. So adds 2 to the power of anything he pilots. I need a vehicle or something. In fact, you mentioned that it's supposed to do for anything. So let's chop this up into ship and vehicle. Starship or Starfighter. Let's just do Starfighter and vehicle and call it good. I know that there's more.
Yeah, we don't need to go too crazy.
Yeah, we don't need to go too deep. But these are going to be fairly straightforward and pretty much copy paste of each other, right? So.
Actually, would it make sense to just write the Starfighter one, then copy that after it's been written?
Yeah, probably. But I've already done it. Now I'll just have to copy paste the body. But
okay.
So who's got a Starfighter for me?
We could do Red 5. I mean, unless we want to intentionally pick something that doesn't match or associate with them in any way to really prove it's anything.
So long as Red 5 doesn't say anything on it about.
Let's just switch. Let's just do Red 2.
Okay.
Red 2's got nothing on there about Luke.
Yep. 2. And this is going to be card number 20770. And I'm just going to mark this as Starfighter to indicate that that's why we chose this. So if anybody comes in and says, why'd you pick Red 2? Well, in reality, you can swap it for anything that's a Starfighter if there ended up being a problem or something and they needed to change it. Okay, I'm going to collapse you so you're not in the way all the time. Now we're going to come in and we're going to grab a reference to Red 2. And so this actually came up with VHD earlier today when we were working on his stuff. I need to update these examples because I think that it's a better idea to do all of the cheating and manipulation after the game has started. Because if you attempt to move cards around before the game has started, it runs into problems when it's calculating the amount of force to activate and stuff like that. So just let the game begin and then move things around. And I find that just works better.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we are then going to we need a space system, don't we? So I need a name of a system for us to go to.
Let's use Naboo. And there's a dark and a light version. We can use the light side, Naboo. 1278.
1278.
Yeah.
All right. And this is just a system, some place for us to plop red 2 down into. So we're going to say get ls card. We're going to grab that Naboo. Come on. All right, so then after we have started the game, I'm going to cheat Naboo onto the table. So we're going to say in our scenario, we need to move location to table. And this already has all the code in it that will handle placing things in the right sector and all that jazz.
Great.
So we're going to throw Naboo down. And then we are going to move card to
location.
Hang on, where's...
You have move cards to location, I see.
Ah, there we go. Yeah. Plural's always getting in the way. So in the location we're going to be targeting, and that's Naboo, and then we are going to stick red 2 in it. And now we need to check red 2's powers. That's well, it's 3 by default,
you know what? That's,
but it's going to be 0.
It's going to be, yeah, you know what? Let me give you should I give you a ship with a permanent pilot so it won't go from 0 to whatever?
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so instead of red 2, let's do a Y-wing. Y-wing.
Y-wing.
That way it won't start at 0 power and mess up your testing. So that's going to be card 147.
147. With permanent pilot. Okay, and then this is a quick and dirty renumbering. So it is Shift F6 for renaming. I will use that quite a bit, just so that I don't have to actually go through and find all of those individual references. So now our red 2 has been replaced with the Y-wing, everything that we've done up till now. And so now we're going to go ahead and assert what the power of that particular vehicle is. So looks like that's... No, I'm still looking at red 2. So what's its power normally?
2. It'll have 2 power.
Okay. Get power of the Y-wing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run this test up to this point just to make sure that everything is looking good. So I right-clicked here in the middle of the function, and I hit debug after placing a breakpoint over here on the side, so that we'll be able to inspect everything on the table and make sure that it's all looking good. So if I skip over this, we should... Oh, I think we ran into an error already. Oh, right. That's right. Whenever you are comparing any sort of stat, you have to provide epsilon because we are dealing with doubles. I remember that now. And so when we run this, we should see it failing at this assert true false, right? There we go. So now we have those little yellow dots under there indicating that that's the step it failed on, which means that we have successfully checked to make sure that our Y-wing is power 2. So now we are going to say, let's tighten this up a little bit. Scene dot, let's see. I have functions for boarding as a pilot. So we are going to board Y-wing with Son of Skywalker. And then we should discover that the power has been increased by 2. So we're gonna just increase this to 4. And I'm gonna say base 2 plus 2 from Son of Skywalker's text. And then I'm actually going to get rid of this assert true because I think that this test should now be passing, assuming that we don't have any weirdnesses that we've ran into. This should cover what we got. And there we go. We got ourselves that wonderful little green check mark. And so now I'm going to copy and paste this entire body into this other one where instead we are going to throw down a vehicle. So do you have a vehicle that already has a... is there such a vehicle with a permanent pilot with the same situation, or do we just have one that is...
Yeah, we can use Snowspeeder.
Okay.
We're going to need a site instead of Naboo, by the way.
So we do have the default ground locations. And since we're cheating it onto the location, that shouldn't matter.
Yeah. Okay then.
Okay. Hit me with that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
I can look it up. If I thought you had it in front of you, that's okay.
I got 3_69.
Nice. All right. So that's...
there's no 0. There's no 0 there.
So in Gemp, There is, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Now, however, the lookup system is actually rather flexible. So it's going to be able to find it either way. You can see up here that I left the 0 in here, and we still found Son of Skywalker. I'm going to delete it here. So
and then on Naboo, you don't have the 0.
Correct. Yeah. So the lookup system is flexible enough that it is able to find it either way. That's just what was built into it. Okay.
Okay.
Pilot. And then we're going to come down to this vehicle one. We're just going to hit, once again, Shift F6. We're going to rename all occurrences because we also want to change the one that's in the text here and as a string. And we're going to change this to Snowspeeder. What's up?
That's not going to change the ones in your other function?
Nope.
The one you wrote?
That is, yeah. So in fact, if we scroll up here, we'll see that the Y-wing is still safe over here. It's context sensitive, so it knows that it's the particular variable in this particular function. That's why I use that and not search replace, because this is actually code aware and knows the specific token that you were talking about.
Cool.
Okay, so we are no longer going to Naboo. Instead, we just want the... let's see. Actually, I'm going to grab the dark side starting location because I believe that one's outdoors. Dark side starting location. And then we're not going to worry about putting Naboo down anymore, but we do want to make sure that our Snowspeeder is still put out there. And do you know what the power is for that? I already forgot if you mentioned it.
It's a 3 power.
3 power. All right, so we should find ourselves in the same situation. We're 5 plus 2, so I'm just going to change my numbers here. And that whole thing should go through unless there is some other caveat.
Yeah. It's a good thing to check because VHD did just fix a bug where someone was adding to vehicles when they shouldn't have been, or vice versa. So
it's always good to have a good scatter shot of these sort of simple things, so that when you change something, if you suddenly see 4 or 5 tests blowing up, now you know, hey, I've got surface area here that will help me diagnose what exactly went wrong. And you'll also notice that, like, it took a little bit to get this first one going, but the second one, since it's the same situation with just a couple of variables tweaked, it was much faster to develop that second test. And that's, you're going to find that is kind of a repeating theme for lots of testing. It's the first scenario that takes a minute, and then tweaking that scenario is as easy as copy pasting. So, okay, now we're going to go for hitting a character prevents them from using a weapon. So let me look at that text again. So during battle, characters hit by Luke may not fire weapons. So we're going to need a weapon on Luke for him to hit people with that's not going to have any other weird effects, or as few weird effects as possible, so we know we're not interfering with this. And then we want somebody with a weapon that we're going to be hitting that they should not be able to fire anymore.
Okay,
so,
well, we could either give him Anakin's lightsaber because we're going to be needing that card later anyway, or we could just give him a old-fashioned blaster.
So I think that that's actually quite... a good idea to double up. I often find myself doubling up like that, just to not have this list grow to a huge amount. I'm just gonna call it lightsaber, and we'll just not have any other lightsabers, hopefully.
Oh, we won't.
Yeah, Anakin's lightsaber.
3_71.
I'm gonna move this one over here just for reference, because we might be looking at that again. Okay, so now we're gonna lightsaber equals get light side card the lightsaber. All right, and now we need an opponent with it could be somebody with a permanent weapon, or could be
yeah, you could do that, or you could just, I think you have like a default stormtrooper guy that you use a lot. So if you want to use him and give him a blaster, I could give you a blaster. Whatever is easier.
Blaster's fine. That's perfectly good. That works for me.
Okay, so blaster weapon, Imperial Blaster, 1_317.
Okay, Imperial Blaster. Actually, I'm going to mark this one over here as Anakin's lightsaber, just because we did not actually use that full name for that. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to collapse these two since we have already confirmed that they're working. And then I often divide up my definitions between light side and dark side just so that I don't get them confused. So we are going to grab our blaster definition from the dark side deck this time. And then we're also going to get ourselves a stormtrooper, which is the filler. All of the light side fillers, the rebel troopers, and the dark side fillers are stormtroopers. So we're going to get the first dark side filler, and we know that that happens to be a stormtrooper. Okay, and then we're going to grab the light side starting location. That's where we're going to put everything at. Okay. So, describe to me a little bit when you are doing battle, if dark side passes, so hang on. So if light side initiates the battle,
Yep.
who takes the first weapon firing opportunity?
It's the player who initiates the battle would take the first action.
Okay. So I think what we
one-
want then, unless you have another caveat to add to this, is I think we want dark side to initiate the battle because we want to check that the stormtrooper is able to fire their weapon, but will decline to do so. And then we will have light side use their weapon. And then if it switches back over to dark side, we will find that they are now unable to use their weapon.
That's right, and we're going to need Darkseid to have a force in their force pile to pay for the weapon fire, or they won't even have the initial option of firing.
Sounds good.
So that's
Yeah.
another setup step.
Okay. All right. So in this case, let's go ahead and set the stage. So we've got our default starting location for light side. So we are going to deploy Luke and the trooper and start attaching stuff. So we're going to move cards to that site. We're going to move both the stormtrooper and Luke. And then we are going to attach the lightsaber to Luke. These may seem a little bit backwards the way that they're set up, but because of the way that these functions are defined, you can attach multiple things, like any number of things. And so because of that, the one that doesn't change has to go with the first, which in this case happens to be the bearer. So they may seem a bit backwards at times. And then the stormtrooper is going to get himself a blaster.
When you put the Stormtrooper and Luke at the site, it just knows to put the Stormtrooper on the dark side and the Luke at the light side.
That's correct. It's using the exact same code that is used by the game itself when it deploys, except that we are bypassing all the parts that deal with actually legally playing it. But after Gemp decides, okay, you have paid the cost, it's legal to go here. Now let's call this little thing over here that lets you deploy. I'm calling that little thing over there that does all the bookkeeping.
The result. It's calling the result part, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have ourselves set up. So now we should be able to say scene.skip to phase battle. This is going to automatically have Darkseid activate as much force as possible, because that's just the way that the test reg has been set up. So because of the fact that the two default starting locations are each a 1-1 location, one lightsaber on each side, they should have a grand total of 3. And so they're going to require one of those for battle. And how much do they have to activate for the blaster?
Just one to fire the blaster.
Just one to fire the blaster. Okay, so that starting 3 should be good. We won't need to do any further manipulation beyond that. So we're going to tell Darkseid to initiate the battle. We have to give it the location. So we're going to initiate battle at that location, and then skip. Not skip. Pass battle. Start responses, because there's a whole bunch of things that go off as soon as you attempt to start a battle, and so we want to pass through all of those. So now, if everything has gone correctly, we should be. Let me think. There's 3 different segments to battle, right?
Yep. Right? So the weapon segment is first, and we're not going to need to go past that.
Okay. So this should get us right into the battle segment. So I'm going to assert that our stormtrooper is in fact able to fire his weapon. So we are going to check that. Let's see. Darkseid weapon.
You called it blaster. Did you
Yeah. I called it the blaster, but so I'm going to be looking in the test rig for a helper function that's going to help me identify whether or not the blaster's ability is currently active. And I think that's just Darkseid card action available. Yeah, there we go. And so we're just going to check and make sure that the blaster is in fact an action that they can take. But we're going to decline. So we are going to have DS pass. They're not actually going to make any actions. And then we're going to get into Luke, and Luke should have... Or does he have an ability to swing his saber? I have no idea what's
Absolutely,
on
Absolutely, yeah. His lightsaber should now be lighting up. So LS cards action available, lightsaber. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then we're going to
And you're going to have him do it.
Yes. Does he need to pay force or anything like that?
His is free.
Okay. So we are going to LS card action. Let's see. Use card action.
Looked like it was choose action, or use card action.
Yeah, use card action. And actually, well, my spider sense is going off. I feel like I have weapon specific. Yeah, let me see. No, none of those. So it must just be ls use card action. Lightsaber. Okay, and when that happens, is there going to be? I guess I could actually look over here and see what it does. Because
So normally you would have to choose the target.
Mhm.
They would have to choose the stormtrooper. I mean, it's the only available option. But do you have to say, make sure that the weapon is targeting the stormtrooper? Or will
yes,
it do that?
I do believe we're going to have to do that. And so actually, let's just go ahead and leave it here for now. So we're going to see where the game takes us, and this will also just double check and make sure that we have in fact dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's.
Yep.
So
even before you would choose the stormtrooper, you would click on the lightsaber, and there would be an option that would say something like swing lightsaber or fire weapon or something like that.
Mhm.
And hypothetically, there could be a few options. So
Yep.
you have to specify which option you want.
So
even though there's
actually,
only
yeah.
one.
So let me go ahead and demonstrate what that looks like here in the test rig.
Okay.
Because in the UI, I'm pretty sure that y'all have it set up so that by default you have to pretty much confirm everything like that. So even if there's only one option, it's still going to give you that little pop-up.
That's right. Even if there's only one, you have to pick it because you might change your mind and not do it.
Right, exactly. And so in the test rig, we just have ourselves a list of things that's available. So here we can see that the fire Anakin's lightsaber is, well, I mean, a weird nomenclature, but that is the action that is available to us for right now. Now,
Okay.
if we activate that action, so here I'm gonna skip through this or have this line execute, which means we're gonna say yes, I want to click on the lightsaber. In reality, this is kind of a combination of clicking on it and then also clicking on the drop down, because that drop down is that's the way that the client works. That's not actually a truth of Gemp itself. And since we're replacing the client, we have not recreated that functionality because we don't want to be double clicking every single thing that we're doing, right? So we're going to activate that ability, and now we're going to find ourselves in a situation where the light side player has to choose a target or click done to cancel. So that's now the circumstance that we're in. So we're going to be, now we're back to writing code. But
Okay.
so
well, I am confused then. Suppose there had been multiple options. You haven't specified which one you want.
Okay, let me just step into this and show you what this is going to look like. So we can see what exactly this action is doing. Just give it a moment. It takes like 4 to 8 seconds, I think, for it to spin up sometimes. And then we're going to step into it. So ls use card action is going to be calling ls decided. This is going to be doing two things. It's going to be informing Gemp that Lightside has made a decision, and the decision that it wants to do is this particular action ID. So when the server is contacting the client, the server is going to say, here's a list of 5 things the player could do, numbered 1 to 5, or 0 to 4, I guess. I want you to get back with me on what their decision is. And all the client, so the client's going to do all the pretty stuff of giving you the names of stuff, having cards highlight, things like that. But at the end of the day, when a player makes a decision, all it's doing is going back to the server and saying, player picked option 2. And so that's all we're doing here, really, is we're looking up whatever that option is supposed to be. So in this case, we have passed in a card, and we've informed the test rig we're using a card action that is attached to this card. If there were multiple actions, then we might be in trouble. But because we happen to know that there is only one in this particular circumstance, this code is going to be looking through all the parameters. It's going to be getting the action text, and it's going to say, hey, which of these actions is tied to this card that I've been given? And then it's going to find that ID and it's going to pass it off. Like I said,
so if a single card has multiple actions, it's something we might need to come back to and look at.
Yes. So, and in fact, there are ways of handling that. So I can actually, instead of passing a card, I believe I can. Okay, it's not this one. Then it's going to be ls choose action. So I could provide a string for what it is. So there might be one thing that says swing a lightsaber, and there might be another one that says throw a lightsaber. And I might say I want the one that says throw. And so that would be the way that you would distinguish. Most of the time, in most contexts, you're going to be able to say, oh, it's the only action that this card happens to have. So we're just going to activate that card's action.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are going to target a card, and so here we're going to be choosing a card. So this is choose a card.
On that,
sorry.
so you said you use the string. What if there are multiple cards that have actions with the same string?
So
I was thinking that, but then where my mind went was we create these test scenarios, so hopefully we can always design a test scenario where one of those two options will be good enough.
that is usually the how I look at it as well. Like, yeah, you can have games and you can have scenarios where that's going to be the case. And I'm not saying that you won't write test cases that don't have that, but most of the time it's just not going to be an issue that you necessarily have. Now, I could have sworn, though, that there was...
like a way to do it by ID number or something?
Well, rather a way for me to pass in like a card and a string.
Yeah, that would really.
I want the action. So I've got the inverse where I'm checking, right? That I can make sure that. So I have. Whoops. So if I was trying to make sure that I had the throw action on a lightsaber and not the swing action, that I can check and ensure that this action exists. And I'd be rather surprised if I didn't have something that was the exact same thing. But okay, I want to pick this particular one, but it's got to be in there. If it's not, it should be fairly straightforward to look at one of these and say, okay, like now what are you doing with both of the addition of the card and the text, and then just do the same thing with that.
Right. We could enhance it. We could add that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then that's
because I'm just imagining like non-unique cards. If you're trying to test some cumulative effect, like you need to have two of them there to be able to test that. So
you would only actually need it if there were multiple non-unique cards that had multiple actions that could be executed at the same time. Because if they have a battle and a deploy action, well, only one of those is going to be available at any one time. And so so that is the sort of situation that probably doesn't come up all that often. But if it does, like the test rig is not set in stone, right? Like it is something that has to be developed and added to as you come across these situations. I just haven't come across that situation yet, apparently. So
that makes sense.
Okay, so we were choosing the Stormtrooper for our target, and then I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to pass some stuff. Oh well, hang on.
It's gonna draw as soon as you click that Stormtrooper. The next thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna draw 2 destiny.
Okay.
And I think you have a way of stacking high destinies to make sure it succeeds.
I do have a way of stacking it. So we do need to hit it, right?
Oh yeah, we want to hit.
Okay. So before we do that, then actually before we even swing it, let's go ahead and prepare it. So we'll come in and say prepare light side destiny, and I'll just throw on a 7 and a 6. Excessive, but hey.
Yeah.
And so now that we have stacked the top of the deck with a 7 and a 6, we'll go through with the rest of that process, swing our lightsaber, pick the Stormtrooper, and then I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of, here we go, pass weapon fire with destiny draws. So there's going to be a whole lot of responses and destiny draw responses that are going to crop up, and so we just want to get past all of them, I'm pretty sure. So all these different types of responses are going to be passed. So let's go ahead and see where that puts us at now. Okay, so right now, looks like dark side player, cost to draw a destiny card, optional responses. Okay. I'm going to replace this with a pass all responses, because apparently the super specific thing that I put together for that passing the weapon draw thing, I think that was set up for Boba Fett's blaster or something, and so was not prepared for multiple destinies or something. So this particular function is set up to just look for anything that ends with optional response and passes through it, because we don't want anything. Okay, so now we have finished that particular setup. So now all we need to double check is that our Stormtrooper has in fact been hit. So we want to say true scene dot is hit. Oh no, it's the card itself. So I can say Stormtrooper dot hit is hit. There we go. So we know that our Stormtrooper is going to be hit by this point, and so now it is the dark side player's turn again to fire a weapon. So now their weapon should not be available because of Son of Skywalker's text. So we're going to say assert. Actually, I can take this same thing from up here where we tested it before, and come on. And we are going to change it from a true to a false. What is that? Import static method. Yes. Okay. Sometimes the automatic inclusion stuff doesn't like you just changing names, and you have to type it out before it realizes, oh yeah, that's a thing that I can import. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this puppy. So we, just like I described before, we were able to fire the blaster before Son of Skywalker got involved. Then Son of Skywalker swung his lightsaber, hit the stormtrooper, and now, here we go, it has passed. They are unable to use the blaster that is wielded by that guy. All right.
Question.
Sure.
So in order to really assert that it's false, you want to make sure that you are at least at the right point in the battle when Dark should have that option. And I saw you do it in the debugger, that it said choose weapons action or pass. So I know that from seeing that, it looked good. But is there a way to like assert, like, yes, this is Dark, this is the time for... Yeah, for Dark to do that.
That is actually a fantastic point, because there are so many times that Gemp is going to be throwing up a response that you don't know if, for instance, we happen to be at a time where it is waiting for a light side response before everything is kicked in. You're absolutely correct. And so sometimes you do have to kind of bookend and make sure that we are in fact in the correct position. So here I happen to have a helper function already that says awaiting dark side weapon segment actions. So this is going to test and make sure that they are being hit with this choice right now. Choose weapon segment action to play or pass, which is exactly what you're looking for. There are a handful of these that already exist that are already have all those canned responses. If you ever find yourself in a situation where one does not exist, you can either add it or you can do the same call that was right there, which was scene.ds decision available, and then you type in, you know, do you want to?
Yeah, it was something like choose weapon segment action to play or pass or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. So,
and yet another way of doing this, you could throw in more cards into this scenario and be like, you know, is Vader able to swing his lightsaber? Yes. Is the Stormtrooper able to fire his blaster? No. And you're like, okay, then if both of those do it, then I know I must be at the right point in the battle.
Yes, and
that makes sense?
Yep, that is also a way of going about it. And if I was in a situation where for this card, and you know, we do actually have a Vader that we're going to be throwing on here, it might make sense to go in and just add that as a little bit more security once we do have Vader established and everything.
That would actually, that would actually help confirm that Luke doesn't accidentally deactivate other characters from firing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that he only affected the one guy.
Exactly.
So it is actually a little bit of an improvement to the test, I guess. We don't have to, those. You know, I don't want to.
Yeah, we won't necessarily do it, but you know that you do make a very solid point that is actually a very good thing to add. Okay, so next, Son of Skywalker V may deploy Anakin's lightsaber from reserve. So we're going to go ahead and get ourselves our lightsaber again, because we have already included Anakin's lightsaber. We don't have to do anything fancy. Now it's going to start the game in the reserve deck, so we don't have to do anything. We are going to cheat him onto the location. Scene.move, cards to location, site, Son of Skywalker.
I'm here now with a little more focus.
Awesome. Okay, and then now we're going to move to the deploy phase for light side. So we are going to skip to light side turn, and we're going to skip straight to the deploy phase. And this is going to get through all of the intervening phases, do everything to close out the dark side turn, and then skip through all of the light side phases until we were at this point. And then we are going to assert that actually, hang on. So assert in zone is what I have. We assert that the saber is in the reserve deck. And actually, we have activated force. So there's a possibility that it has gone into the reserve deck. So actually, we need to skip to... Oh, dang. Let's see. We want to skip to the activation phase. And
well,
then
why don't you... I mean, I'm sure there's many ways to do this. Why don't you skip to the deploy phase, move the card to the hand, and then move it back to the deck?
So the reason I can't do that is because Gemp is not constantly checking to see what actions are available to the player. Gemp will have checked to see what things are there and then it will reach out to the client and say, okay, here's the list of items that the player is allowed to select. And then if we cheat at that point and move the saber into the place that we want to see it, the server is waiting for a decision to be executed. So it's not going to double check and see if anything has changed in between when it asks the client, what does the player want to do? It's going to sit there spinning its wheels and waiting, not doing anything until the player makes a decision. And so then the player can either pass or the player can choose a different decision. And then at that point, if Gemp is still in the deploy phase, it may double check and see, oh, the lightsaber has changed locations. Now there's actually more actions that I can offer to the player on the second time that I ask. So yeah, you do actually. So cheating is not as easy to do all the time. It is why I try to do it at the beginning before anything else happens. But whenever you have to deal with particular ordering here, it can get in the way. So here we're going to cheat it after the player has activated, but before we make it to the deploy phase. So we're going to say ls max. There we go. Light side activate, max, force, and pass. Do I want to activate the max, force, and pass? I want to.
In this case, you won't be needing any force, so you could kind of just not activate if you want to do that. In this case,
yeah.
Although that won't teach us how to deal with this. What if you were to skip to the control phase and then, that way you're between the activation and the deploy, and that's when you start moving the cards around.
Oh, is that the order? So there is a control phase in between? Okay. Perfect.
Activate, control, deploy, yeah.
There we go. That's perfect. Okay, I'm going to go to the control phase then. Good. Because I was looking at those functions, I was like, oh man, this is going to require tearing some stuff out if this is going to work. And now we're going to cheat, and we're going to say move cards to reserve. Oh, no. Reserve. What are we moving? We are moving cards to top of own reserve deck. Sounds good. We're going to move the lightsaber to the top of the reserve deck. And then we are going to skip to phase deploy. Okay, so now we should find ourselves in the deploy phase. We should find ourselves with the lightsaber in the reserve deck, and we should find ourselves in a position where Son of Skywalker's text should work. So we're gonna double check all those assumptions. So we're going to assert in zone, which I guess I already had down there. We're gonna double check that the lightsaber is in the reserve deck. We're gonna double check. Actually, at location, there we go.
Before you moved it to the top of the reserve deck, where was it? Was it just floating in
Honestly, we don't know.
It could have been in reserve, or it could have been in the force pile, and that was what we were worried about.
Yeah,
It's like a real game, so it could have been in either place. We don't, if you run the test. So in other words, if you run this test 100 times, sometimes it will have one result, and sometimes it'll have a different result based on how the game played out.
Exactly.
But when it got added as a card, it got put in the possible deck.
Like yes, yeah. So all these, this is your reserve deck, is what it's defining, right? Is the stuff that you come to the game with. So it could have been anywhere. It could have been drawn. Like if the test rig wasn't dealing with this already, because it shuffles your hand back into your reserve deck, right? It could have been drawn. It could have been activated. You don't actually know where any of this stuff is unless you specifically define it. I had that exact problem that Gergall described with stochastic test cases, where I had stuff work sometimes and not others, because I was not controlling the destiny. And so sometimes I was drawing a low destiny, and sometimes I was drawing a super high destiny and accidentally winning a battle I didn't want to win. And so it was driving me crazy until I realized that, okay, I need to have discipline on this. I can't just assume I'm always going to draw a stormtrooper, because I might not. Or vice versa. But okay, so we're going to make sure that this thing is in the reserve deck. We're going to make sure that Son of Skywalker is at the correct location, and then we're just going to double check. Assert true scene dot ls card action available Son of Skywalker, and then once we've done that, we will actually use it. So we will say scene dot ls use card action of Son of Skywalker, and this is going to result in a whole bunch of automatic responses, of course, so we're just going to pass all the responses. And then if everything has gone correctly, we should find ourselves with the lightsaber. Or no, hang on, it's going to ask. Okay, we're just going to step into this and take a look, because I think it might ask us where we want to deploy it.
Yeah.
And so we gotta see what exactly it's looking for.
Well, first, will it ask you which Anakin's lightsaber do you want to play?
It might.
Yeah.
There are certain
Sure.
circumstances where the Gemp is going to say, hey, you only have one actual choice available to you. But I kind of get the feeling that that was...
Shortcut enabled is true, yeah.
Right. But I kind of get the feeling that we utilized that a lot in Lord of the Rings, but I think you guys kind of went back on that a little bit and said, actually, we want players to still make that decision. And still say, even if there is just one, that they still have to click on it.
We often skip when there's one choice, but in this case, it's very important that players get to look through their whole deck. That's a perk. So
fair.
they're gonna choose their one lightsaber, and they're also happy to look through their deck and see what's in there.
Got it. Yeah, and so it looks like that's the exact situation. Choose card to deploy from the reserve deck. So we're going to need to say scene dot choose card. Now, this may actually require this one here. So you can see that there's two different ways of selecting stuff: selecting a card and selecting a blueprint. Because in actuality, if you are pulling a particular card from the reserve deck, it may not have been instantiated as a physical card yet. This is something I ran into with Lord of the Rings quite a bit. So I'm just going to choose cards, and we're going to see if this works. And if it doesn't, it's probably going to be that we need to tell it, actually, I want you to choose this card blueprint specifically, and not this physical card, because it's not a physical card yet. Oh, whoops. LS choose cards. It's the light side making that decision. Okay, so we open up the deck, we choose Anakin's lightsaber, and then after that, I assume it's also going to ask us where... Hey, hang on, I didn't say run, I said debug. I must have said run. Alright, so dark side probably has a response. Looked at cards and card pile response, yeah, so we don't care about that, so let's skip on past that to the next line. There isn't one, but we just want to see what the next action is. And now the dark side player has been given a choose deploy actions or pass response. So, or decision, I should say. So now we are going to duplicate our assertions here. It looks like it did in fact automatically deploy it to Luke as the only actual correct place that it could go.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
So we actually, I think I have assert true scene dot attached. There we go. Is attached to. So the lightsaber is attached to Luke, and this is actually going to do a few different checks. It is going to double check and make sure that it is in the correct zone, and then it's going to double check and make sure that it is in fact attached as the using the attachment trait or field, I mean. And then we're just going to do that. Well, we don't need to double check that he's still at that site because that didn't change. But then, to Gergall's point earlier, we're just going to double check and make sure that the dark side player is now waiting on something. So, scene dot dark side deploy. No, dark side decision available. We'll just say any decision available. Well, nah. So we're going to say, okay, we want something where they're talking about deploying, right? And so that's going to search in the text of the decision that it's been given, and it has something to do with deploys, which should be the play your deploy action or pass. All right, there we go. So we have now confirmed that in fact Anakin's lightsaber is able to be played when it's already in the reserve deck. So now we're going to go ahead and duplicate this, and we are just going to shift a couple of things around, and we're going to make sure that the lightsaber is not playable. So we're going to go ahead and put it on the table. So up here, we're going to just
step away for 1 minute.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
And we're going to attach...
So we need 2 cards, right? 2 copies of Anakin's lightsaber?
Actually,
Like
that
one
sounds like a second
table,
test. Yeah,
one in reserve.
we can definitely do that. I'm going to test it first with the saber on the table and not in the reserve deck, and that shouldn't work. And then we'll do a second one with a second copy of the saber in the reserve deck, and the other one on the table. All right, so we're going to attach.
Technically, in this case, you shouldn't need the one where it's in the reserve deck, because you shouldn't even have the ability to select the option to see your reserve deck.
Oh, good point. So that'll cover both.
Yeah.
So this one case will cover both of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's out on the table, yeah, I think so.
If it was deploying something that's non-unique, then it would be different. But
right.
For this, you shouldn't even have the ability to attempt to deploy it from your reserve deck.
Right. Okay, so we're going to skip to the deploy phase. We don't need some of that other manipulation stuff because we've already made sure that the lightsaber is on the table. We are going to instead assert that it is already attached to Son of Skywalker. And then we're simply going to find ourselves not able to use any ability on Son of Skywalker because it should not be available. And I don't think any of the other abilities he had are activatable during the deploy phase. So, and there we go. Short and sweet. So a very simple edit of the previous one. So let's just keep abbreviating these. So now the battle ability. Okay, so we are going to need ourselves a couple of things. We're going to need a Dark Jedi, Darth Vader, I assume, and then, well, we have troopers that we can pull out, and we'll double check, make sure that the troopers get excluded. We'll do the same thing with Rebel troopers to make sure that people on Luke's side get excluded. I think that might be everything, right?
Yeah, that should be good.
Battle just initiated at same site unless a vehicle here may target a Dark Jedi for a minute. Battle exclude all their characters. Okay. So I need a Vader. Come on. Oops. Let's just grab that one from Premiere. Okay, so we are gonna get ourselves some dark side cards. We're gonna get ourselves a Stormtrooper. We're gonna get the first DS filler, and then we're gonna do the same thing up here just for a Rebel Trooper. But we want to make sure it's the light side instead. We're not going to be moving you to hand. In fact, have I been copying that everywhere? I have been. Drat. Okay, I think that's all we need. And then once the game has started, we will cheat everybody down. So we will just say scene dot move cards to location. At the site, we want the Rebel, we want Son of Skywalker, we want the Stormtrooper, and we want Vader. Should be all we need. And then there's going to be that 3 force automatically put into Darkside's site, so they'll be able to activate battle, or initiate battle, I mean. So let's go ahead and skip to phase battle, and then we are going to say Darkside is going to initiate at whatever site we're at. Doesn't matter what it is, haven't even given it a name, although it happens to be Cloud City. Okay, now that we're here, this is when we should in fact find ourselves with a trigger that is allowing us to respond, because this is saying if a battle just initiated at same site. Oh, just initiated at same site. Actually, that gives us another test case that we should take a look at where
it's at a system.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just at the site that he's not at, just anywhere else.
Oh, yeah, also.
And that, so his ability should not activate if it's not at the battle that he happens to be involved in. Right. Let's see, so battle at other site.
Yeah, I mean, you could really dig into these and probably create 100 tests by scrutinizing every word.
Probably could. And it would be great. It would make the system very robust.
Probably should. I was waiting to hear that next.
Okay, so we are initiating the battle, so we should have ourselves with a response. So scene.lightside, is it just card? I think it's just card action available, but we're gonna dive in and we're gonna see. There may be some nuances with what order people respond to stuff in. There may be a slightly different response that is coming up that happens to trigger before initiate, like for instance, the payment of the force. For the initiation of battle, that might come first. Battle just initiated. Optional responses from Chasm Walkway. So it's got a an action trigger there. Exclude characters from battle. Okay, hang on. No, this is yeah, battle just initiated at Cloud City Chasm Walkway. It's not the Chasm's own text. This just doesn't say anywhere in the text that it is from Luke, right? So I believe if we take a look here, we see that it is from card ID number 97. And if we take a look at our Son of Skywalker, we see that his card ID is currently 97. So that is coming from him. So if we step over this, it should pass. Yep. So we have confirmed that there. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't actually put an assertion. Assert true, please. So we should find ourselves with a response action from Son of Skywalker available, and then we're gonna choose it, and we're gonna say that yes, that is what we want. Yeah, this is where we were at, and it did assert true. So let's go ahead and use it. So scene.lightside, card action, use card action, Son of Skywalker, and now that we've done that, it should exclude everyone else. So actually, before we do that, we need to assert some. When you initiate battle, is everyone at that location automatically included?
Yep.
Okay.
You're gonna have to target the Dark Jedi, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So from an
Well, first you
ordering
want to check that
perspective,
everyone is in the battle. First.
yeah. So that's what I was thinking of. Do we check that everybody is included in the battle, and then the trooper and the stormtrooper get excluded, or is the timing not going to work out for that? Because this is the very first response to battle. Has battle technically begun?
They'll be in the battle.
They will? Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
In that case, let's go ahead, and before that happens, we're just gonna double check and make sure that everybody is included. So we have some battle stuff. Is participating in battle. Would you look at that? So we will need to assert true. Come on, what are you doing? So we're gonna check and make sure that all these people, the Rebel Soldier and the Son of Skywalker and the Stormtrooper and Vader, are all included in the battle. And then after this action has occurred, we should find that these two. Actually, let's just duplicate this and check both sides.
For your use card action, right after that, then you have to pick Vader, right, as your target.
Okay, then we'll insert that selection there first.
Yeah.
Then. So we don't want the Rebel, and we don't want the Stormtrooper, and then we're going to do the inverse here. Okay. So we will say scene.ls choose card Vader. And then there are probably going to be some responses.
Now,
oh, whoops! I saw this failure here.
One tiny thing: the assert false participating in battle Rebel Stormtrooper. If either of them were not in the battle, that assert would pass,
fail.
right?
Yep. Well, yeah. So, just by itself is participating in battle. It requires that both of them be. In fact, let me just step in real quick. So this is checking that all of them do in fact are participating.
So for that assert, like this test would pass if the trooper was included, but the Rebel was not.
No, this would fail in that case because this is assuring that every single person that you pass to me is participating in this battle. It's why I had to split this up between the people that are in the battle and the people that aren't. Because if there was a mismatch.
But if the Rebel is there and the Stormtrooper's not, the assert false will pass.
Oh, you mean at the location?
So like let's say that for some reason the stormtrooper what did we say? Let's just say that stormtrooper is excluded
Okay.
and the rebel's not, right? So is participating in battle? That's going to come out false. So
Yes.
then assert false is going to be like, okay, good, thumbs up. You see his point?
Okay,
So we
so
gotta split it into two, I think.
Yeah.
so hang
he's
on.
right.
So if the stormtrooper was not participating and the rebel trooper was, then
Mhm.
this is going to result. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. So that's why you should just split them up, like Adam's
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, we can do that. Oops.
Just for that one. The other one, it works.
Yeah, the other
fine.
one works together. Yeah. You're
It's a really
absolutely
good
correct.
catch, Adam.
Yeah.
I would not have caught that.
Yeah, no, I obviously didn't either. Fair point all around. So,
Technically, I'm a Brandon, but I'll take Adam too.
Yes,
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
wasn't
Did I
me.
mix you up? I'm sorry. You know
All
what?
good, all good.
I'm sorry about that. I wasn't watching who was talking, and it was such a smart comment. I assumed it was Adam.
Adam, I'm glad to know you.
Generally good at something.
okay, well,
No,
I think this test passes. I think that's it for that one. So now we just need to have our situations where he is not able to respond to the battle beginning, because either it is a battle at a different site or because there's a vehicle there. So, in fact, we've already got a snowspeeder, don't we? So we can just slap that in. And say battle ability not available if battle triggered elsewhere. So I'm not going to change anything about this except I'm going to move Son of Skywalker to a different site. So we've got the light side site and we've got the dark side site. And we're just going to stick Son of Skywalker over on the dark
If
side
the vehicle's
site.
there, the battle should be happening.
Do what?
Oh, you're not doing the vehicle one right now. You're
I'm
just
not doing the
at a
vehicle one
different
right now.
site.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm doing the other site that is not the same site. So here, this should not be. So this is going to trigger at the same site that the other guys are at, but not Son of Skywalker. Oh, whoops. This is not correct. I need DS site. And then once it triggers, we should not have an action available from Son of Skywalker. Short, sweet, and to the point. And then the other one is going to look very similar, except it's going to include a vehicle, and we're just going to double check and make sure that the vehicle's there. Okay, so this red means that we had a crash of some sort. So the particular issue is probably that light side has no options at all, that this is actually dark side's turn to be making any decisions, which means, of course, that there would be no light side, although that's not a very elegant way of failing. Return action available. Okay, why is it?
In this case, you can break before that and look at the history of text logs, right? Or the
Yep, I
like
can do
reports.
And see where
I
it's
found
at.
that was super handy.
Yeah, so let me demonstrate that here. What he's talking about here. So in the is it the game state? Yeah, in the game state, there's a last messages, which is just the chat log, right? So we can come down here, we can see initiates battle, and yeah, so there's no additional actions that occurred. However, it is in fact the dark side player's current turn to make a decision. Choose weapon segment action to play or pass. So I'm going to kind of imply the change here. I think that a better choice would be to go in here and actually fix this so that it does not fail the way that it is. This shouldn't be throwing an exception. It should just say, yeah, there is no action available for light side. But for the purposes of the stream, let's just go ahead and comment this out, and I'm gonna instead do scene dot or assert true scene dot dark side weapon awaiting dark side. There we go. So we know that the dark side player is currently awaiting weapon segment actions, which means that Luke could not have responded to the beginning of the battle. It wasn't even offered to the light side as an option. There we go. Okay, so there's our to-do finished. And now we'll do it with the vehicles. So I'm going to copy the whole version up here so that we have everybody at the same location again. We're going to grab ourselves a snow speeder. Oops. And hopefully it doesn't cause a problem with us trying to cram the snow speeder inside a building, but we'll see. Because this particular location we're at is interior, I believe.
Put them at the is the default dark side one exterior?
You have
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, I could do that instead and be safe about it, but I'll change it over here.
So to see, does it break?
Yeah,
I'd leave it as.
Let's try, and we'll see what happens. And if it does break, then yeah, I'll change it over to the Tatooine Marketplace, which is the dark side one. Okay, so we skip to the battle. We initiate the battle. They're all participating in the battle, and we should not have an action available. So this is going to end the same way, where we would like to be able to say, does the Lightsaber have any options? But since that is currently crashing, we will instead just check to see if the dark side currently has a battle segment action available. And yeah, we'll see what happens to this snowspeeder. We cheated it onto the table, so unless there is some sort of rule process that is checking, yeah, it doesn't look like it cares. It got through the gate.
I'll let you deploy it, but you can cheat it there.
Can you add it to the participating in battle list? Make sure the snow speeder's participating. Right there, yeah.
There it goes.
Nice.
So what we have learned here is that the only problem with vehicles is getting them into the building. Once they're there, everything's okay.
Yeah, well then the problem is how do you get it out at the door?
I don't know. We'll have to cheat it out too. Okay, and now, so we've already been doing some battle stuff, so we're kind of already set up for attrition, right? So this is going to be fairly straightforward. We're just going to keep up our exact same scenario. Let me start minimizing these. And we need some attrition. So it's been a few weeks since I've been in Star Wars stuff. It's already flown out of my head. Someone remind me what the conditions are for attrition.
You need to draw destiny.
Okay, so someone needs to draw destiny. So your opponent draws destiny on you, and the amount of destiny that they draw is a certain amount, right?
Yeah. Okay. We need to be careful. I wouldn't include Vader here, depending which Vader you used. He might increase the destiny.
That was
he does
Premier.
By one, yeah.
Oh.
Or you could just have Darkseid draw one, and then adding one to it is fine.
Yeah.
You could leave the Vader. So Dark's going to need 4 ability to draw Battle Destiny, unless you end up doing something else to add a Battle Destiny.
Right.
So having the Vader.
I'm going to go ahead and cut
put
out
4 troopers if you wanted.
Yeah, yeah, maybe you do 4 troopers. If you do the Vader, Luke's going to light up with the option to exclude characters. I don't know if you care that that's going to come up. There's different ways you could approach this. I guess.
Actually, I don't think that's going to matter because we're going to be passing, and so the fact that there happened to be some, we pass so frequently with no options available, it doesn't actually impede us that one of those passes happened to have an action that we declined. So I don't think that'll be a problem, but we'll.
I think as long as we assert the attrition value or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just to make it clear.
We'll check all the values and we'll make and since we're stacking for Destiny anyway, we have fine control over exactly what the outcome is going to be here. So we're gonna have Son of Skywalker versus Vader. We're gonna have Vader draw Destiny, and we want him to draw less than 4, and then later we're gonna adjust that to be 4 or greater. And we want to make sure that so Son of Skywalker is going to be the only light side thing on the table, and so he should not be an option when it comes time to pay for battle damage, right? Okay, so we are not going to be using any of the actions. We're just going to skip right through it. So I actually have some helper functions for this. Scene dot battle. Let's see. Skip to power segment. Skip to end of power segment, because that's going to be right before the actual attrition and battle damage gets taken care of, right? I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep, that looks right. I mean,
skip
I've never
the power
used
segment
it,
and then skip the battle destiny draws or make the battle destinies
Yeah,
get
so-
drawn, but we passed by the actions. So I think that's correct. So we just need to make sure that we stack the table, or stack the decks before we do that. So we're gonna go ahead and prepare lights. Well, light side's gonna draw as
Dark
well.
side.
Does dark side or does light side matter in this case?
We don't care what light draws. They could draw whatever.
Cool.
Prepare dark side destiny of 1.
All right, so we're gonna throw 1 in there, and then we're gonna skip past the end of this, and then we should find ourselves in a situation. Assert true. Scene dot attrition. Awaiting light side attrition payments, and then there should be a thing for amount. Get unpaid. There we go. So actually, I'm gonna do both of these. Assert true. Scene dot light side unpaid. No. Awaiting light side attrition payment. And then we're going to double check and make sure that the light side attrition payment is 2, right? Because we drew 1 destiny, and Vader added 1. Destiny.
So if light side drew and dark side initiated the battle, the dark side would be the one that it's awaiting for the attrition payment, right?
If okay, so if dark side goes,
You're saying that light side did draw destiny,
mm-hmm.
but we didn't set what it was.
Yeah. So we don't actually know what it was. It could have been anything. Oh yeah. So that might affect who wins the battle, right? So
the awaiting light side attrition payment is probably going to be false because it will be waiting on the dark side player.
Okay. So would it be easier if we forced light side to win or light side to lose?
That's not going to affect it. If you would prefer light side to deal with their payment first, just skip to light side's battle phase and make light side initiate the battle.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, whoever initiates deals with their battle damage first.
And we'll just have to do that.
Yeah.
And then okay, and nothing else will change there. And then we're going to okay. So let's run it and see what happens. Oh, and then I'm going to have to add another check at the end of this, of course, to make sure that, excuse me, that Luke is not actually one of the valid options. But it looks like we got a failure here, so it could probably be something dumb like some sort of response, but we shall see. Just something small. Initial attrition calculated. Yes. Thank you. Scene.pass all responses. Okay, so we have in fact found ourselves in a situation where light side is paying attrition and the amount of attrition that they owe is 2, and then we should assert false scene.light side card choice available of Son of Skywalker. They
Not
should
quite. Not quite.
Yeah, he's still available. He's just not required.
It's allowed, yeah. So we would. Can we just check for like I don't know what's the best way to do it. We could check for the message that says light side has attrition, but all cards are immune. There's a message for that we could look for, or I don't know if we want to. I don't know what else we would check. It's
So
probably the best thing to check for.
I had something scene.attrition. Something about is immune to it. That may be just that's just checking whether or not they have immunity.
Yeah, that's not it.
It's not checking the result. Now that you're mentioning this, I think I did run into this before. How did I solve it?
Because the game does, at the beginning of this segment, it does check the immunity to attrition right away.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a way to check, to ask, hey, was this in the set of people that are immune? That would be a good thing. I don't know if there's a test, if you have a function set up for that yet, but
I don't know that or hang on. Let me do a breakpoint here because there might be something in the battle state that
yeah, because like in the client, it shows up slightly differently, like it's highlighted with like a yellow border instead of a red border or something like that.
If
So
you're able to,
something is passing.
yeah,
to the
if you're
clock.
able to keep passing and confirm that SOS is still on the table after the battle, then you've confirmed it at least.
Oh yeah, so we could just, instead of checking to see if he's one of the options, just satisfy everything from the reserve deck or whatever, and then if he's still there and he was not forced to be forfeit, then
Maybe we should prepare Lightside's Destiny so we know exactly how much battle damage to expect.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything in the base, just in a real quick thing that looks like it's easy to check. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and do. Actually, we could just stack them with 0. If you draw 0, is there no attrition? Yeah.
Exactly. Let's give him a 0. Now Light's gonna be outpowered by 2, I think. It'll be 7-5. So Light's gonna need to take 2 battle damage and not lose Luke.
Awesome. So what we're gonna do is scene dot
8-5.
Yeah, 8-5, so he'll need 3.
Oh right, sorry, 8-5. Yep.
Pay. There we go. Light side. Pay battle damage from reserve deck. So this is a helper function that is set up to just keep looping and just keep choosing the reserve deck every time that comes up.
Cool.
It breaks in a situation if both players are alternating, but so long as we've determined that the dark side is not going to have anything that they have to satisfy, then this should be good. Okay. All right, so that works. So now we just need to double check to make sure that Luke is still on the table. Assert at location, site, so Skywalker.
Can you assert that the battle has ended?
Ah, yes.
Also.
Assert false scene dot is active battle. Battle's still going. What happened?
It probably is waiting for you to pass.
Yeah,
So I think
probably
after
dark
the big
pass
battle
or
damage,
I'll pass all responses
Pass
again.
everything.
Yeah. Lots of.
because the light side player will still have the ability to forfeit
Oh
Luke
yeah.
to the attrition right then. Even though they've paid all the battle damage and they're immune, they have the option.
Choose force to lose or battle from. No, what?
Yep. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I can.
Just send a pass if you can.
Scene dot light up. Hang on. Go away. Light side pass. It's gonna have to be all because right now it's still.
Get that?
Right.
I
But then
think
you
that-
would want to. But then you would want to check for Luke being at the location after you.
Oh,
basically those three lines. I think
see
should
what
be
you're
in
saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
First pass, then assert that the battle
Yeah.
is over, then assert that Luke's at the location.
Got it. Yeah.
If you could swap those two as well.
The
Yeah.
order of those two doesn't really matter.
I agree, it doesn't matter, but it reads nicer to me. Make sure the battle's over, then make sure Luke is still there.
Okay.
It logically makes sense to me, at least.
I'm hoping that area that we saw a moment ago was because I had it in the wrong order, but I guess we'll see what happens. Yep, it didn't like that. Okay, so what have we got here? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. This is the wrong function. This is the one that only pays a
Pays
single
1
battle
unit
damage.
of force.
Yeah, so I want to pay remaining battle damage from reserve deck. That's the one that is the loop that will just pay whatever happens to be there, because the other one was for situations where gosh darn it, what? Okay, so let's dive in and let's see what's going on. So pay battle damage from reserve deck. Oh, okay, so it takes an amount, so we're gonna get all the unpaid battle damage. Oh, okay. I have a copy paste error here where it is attempting to make dark side pay for it. We're gonna build a wall and make
Ooh,
dark
nasty.
side pay for it. There are probably still a few of those throughout the system because there we go, it all passed. It was just trying to
Nice.
make the wrong side pay for it. Okay, so now all we got to do is copy paste all of this. We're going to change the number so that we are definitely drawing more than 4. So we should be getting 4 from Destiny plus 1 from Vader. So the total amount of unpaid attrition should be 5, which means that now what? What changes about our circumstance here?
Light will
So
not
now,
have.
if they lose everything from reserve deck to pay the battle damage, they won't. They should not be able to pass.
Yeah, they have to pick Luke.
Okay, so we're going to have to pick Luke at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are currently waiting for dark side, or light side, I mean, to choose a card from battle to forfeit. So actually, I think that that's probably a good message for us to
Yeah.
end our assertions on. We will just say assert true scene dot light side decision available. Choose a card from battle to forfeit.
And I think that still existed after paying all the battle damage before, right? Because you could still choose to lose him.
Yeah, so in the first scenario, it said what?
Isn't
Or
there
pass?
a little bit
You'd
of
have to make
extra-
sure that it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's go see what it says. So right after paying all of the battle damage from reserve deck, we'll see what's different about the message.
It's going to say or pass.
If desired.
Oh, if desired. Okay, my mistake. So you have to make sure. So this scenario is good.
Yeah, we're just going to slap that in there, and then we're going to come over to this other one, and we're going to make sure that that's not the message that we have. Oh, whoops. I just said assert false. We want the whole thing. So I got to go up and fix this one. True. So this, I told it to run all of the tests here, because that should be the last one on our list. I don't know why it's taking so long. It looks like it's rewriting. Why is it recompiling? I didn't want you to do anything weird. Yeah, whatever. So I think that's all of our tests here for Son of Skywalker. We'll see whenever this finishes, whenever this decides to get itself together. So yeah, that's what it takes to write tests for a card in a comprehensive fashion. I often end up doing this at the beginning of the process where I am implementing one of the cards. Try to figure out all those different edge cases that I need to be checking for. This is a good checklist as well for implementation, where you can just make sure that your card is implemented just one little bit at a time, and then you'll kind of have that checklist go from yellow X's to red green check marks as you go. It works as a really nice little system there.
Yeah, that design for test is a real nice thing.
Yeah.
Just double checking the attrition. It was 4 or 5. Do we need to change it over here?
So
He's immune less
the destiny
than 4 or
was
5.
4, and he's immune to less than 4, and we are hitting him with 5.
So we need to drop those to 3s and then a 4
No,
expected.
that was the other test. Oh, MC, are you trying to test the exact cutoff? Is that what you're saying?
That's a fair point.
Yeah, we were going to test the cutoff of 4, right?
Yeah, and then if it works above 4, we don't really care to get too much into
You
the
have a small typo.
Is 4.
Yep, you have a small typo back down.
Expected
Expected
draw
4.
a destiny of
Expected.
pi and add.
That's right.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's
Draw 3 plus 1, 4. There we go. Awesome. I can't believe this is recompiling everything. That stupid thing. We were running it this whole time.
Is that
now it's...
because of the change to that one function within the test rig?
Even if it did, it shouldn't be doing everything. This is doing a full recompile, top to bottom. I don't know what made it decide that everything had gotten invalidated and needed to be rebuilt. That's kind of annoying. Okay, well, actually, so let's kind of merge these two and maybe flip them around while I'm waiting on this to finish compiling. So let's talk about modifiers querying, because this is kind of a big portion of what makes a card a card. So if you are writing a card and you are trying to do something like check to see if another card, like let's say an X-Wing, has a maneuver of 4. Naively, you might expect that you could just ask the card itself, hey, what is your maneuver? But that doesn't work because we have all sorts of cards in this ecosystem. Hey, here we go, all the tests passed, finally. We have a whole bunch of cards in our entire card pool, this whole ecosystem, that can affect and change what a card's maneuver might be. And you don't have a hope of going out and writing code that is going to take all of those circumstances into account. So what Gemp has is a way of checking to make sure that all those various modifiers, like to kind of funnel them all into a single little bottleneck, and you only have to check the bottleneck instead of being aware of all the stuff that might be going on underneath the hood. And the mechanism for this is referred to as modifiers querying. Just basically this giant mess of a class that has all these functions that you can call. It's not unlike the test rig, actually, where it's just got a whole lot of helper functions that you call to identify whether or not a particular thing about the game is true or false or a particular number or whatever. So as an example, let's take a look at the let's see. So it's going to be in here, modifiers querying. You'll see that there are a bajillion classes in here now because I recently got done refactoring this so that it is chopped up into bite-sized pieces. So this modifiers querying right here has a whole bunch of subparts in it that are all going to contain a whole bunch of helper functions all throughout for handling all the different things throughout the game. So let's take a look at maneuver. Here inside this maneuver class, it's going to have a whole bunch of functions that you can query. So you can say, does this particular card have this particular maneuver? Or actually, no. Does this card even have a maneuver stat at all? Right? Because some cards don't have maneuver, depending on the situation. Let me get the actual maneuver stat. This is the sort of thing that you might query if you're writing a card. You care about whether a card has a maneuver of 4 or not. So you're going to be asking the game, hey, what's the maneuver? And as you can see in here, there's going to be a lot of situations that are going to be affecting that maneuver, changing whether or not the card has maneuver, changing how you're supposed to interpret the maneuver, whatever. All that stuff is going to be nicely tied up into a little bow for you, and you can call just get maneuver. So
those two flavors of get maneuver, one is before and after modifiers.
Mm-hmm. So
no, they're both after modifiers. One of them just has
a modifier collector. This is going to be utilized by the rest of the system. If the so for instance on Gemp, when you right click on a card and it shows you all the different modifiers that happen to be on the card, that is handled through this concept of a modifier collector, where it passes that in and says, hey, I want you to write down every time you come across a new modifier so that I can display it when the player is looking at it. For most other circumstances, though, they don't care, so they're just slapping in a new one. Because when you're in the game actually trying to figure out if a card has a particular maneuver or not, you just care about the card. You don't care about this stuff, which is just client stuff, right? Making it look good in the UI. So when I wrote stuff for the Rebel flight suit, one of the things that involved was making a new modifier. And then I had to figure out, okay, well, where am I going to put that modifier? And in my case, I was doing stuff that had to do with changing how maneuver was calculated. So this section right here, for instance, was added by me that looked for this particular kind of modifier that I had recently added. this is essentially what goes into making a new set of functionality for almost any card. Not every kind of new card you might add, but for almost any. Because almost all the time, the particular card that you might be writing is probably adding an exception to some sort of process, or saying that, okay, well, we're going to have a new way of changing this number or changing this trait, and so that's going to involve finding the section of logic that deals with that trait or that stat, and then adding in a little section that is very aware of that particular kind of modifier that you have just added. That for now only exists on this new card that you have added, but may in the future exist on others. And so just as kind of a brief summary, that is in a nutshell what you do to add new functionality to the game. Echo Base Trooper wanted me to real quick just point out that if you are in fact writing up new functionality for a card, to do double check and make sure that it is actually new functionality, because there are quite a few different card effects and that exist. For instance, if I come over here and scroll on the left, you can see all the different kinds of modifiers that already exist in the game somewhere. There's a very good chance, I haven't even hit the end as I'm scrolling and babbling through this, there's a very good chance that what you are looking for already exists. So you do have to do a little bit of your what do you call it? Just double checking to make sure that it is in fact there before you start adding new stuff. But if it doesn't exist, you'll probably end up writing something that looks like this. Hey, while you're calculating maneuver, check for my brand new, maneuver altering modifier that I just added, and changing your behavior. So that was just the brief spiel that I wanted to give for that. And now we're actually going to end up diving into a little bit of the modifiers querying. So I'm going to recreate one of the bugs that I had. I had it up and accidentally deleted it. Binders. So when I made binders, I made a blunder when I was implementing it in how I defined it. Oh dear. I could have sworn. Let's see. Side, destiny, play card zone option. Okay, we're just gonna.
It probably had attached in there.
Zone option.
Like zone
there we go.
dot attached.
Attached. There we go. Oh come on. Now what? Oh, the title may not be something that it accepts anymore. Come on, hurry up. Side destiny. Okay, yeah, so we're just gonna comment you out real quick.
I think you just need to switch those. The attached would be before the title.
Oh, okay, I put it in the wrong spot. That makes more sense. There we go. Okay, so this was the wrong version of the card that I made, and it caused one of the test cases that I was writing to fail. So let's go inspect that and see if we can figure out what might have happened. So this was set 5, 106. Not over there. Over here, please. Do I have Kabe listed? Okay, so I was testing that when binders got stolen from somebody using Kabe here, that when it is stolen, that all of the excess captives that particular Imperial happened to be holding all got freed. And I was running into an issue where when I attempted to use Kabe to steal the binders, her ability wasn't available. In spite of the fact that binders was on the table and there was a guy holding the binders and Kabe was on the table and Kabe had all the stuff, the issue that I was running into was, hey, Kabe does not in fact have the ability to steal a weapon or device. And I was flummoxed because why on earth is this ability not available? If we go and take a look at it, come on, where are you? Over here. So Kabe just says, during your control phase, may target one opponent's weapon or device at same site. Draw a destiny. If you beat the destiny, Kabe steals the device to use or weapon to hold and transfer for free to a warrior at same site. There's not really many requirements in here, right? There just needs to be an opponent's weapon or device. So why on earth was I not able to steal the device? So we're going to go through the debugging process that I went to before I finally realized that the problem was that I had utilized the wrong abstract class over here. So first, we're going to hit a debug on this breakpoint, and we're just going to take a look and see what we can glean from the game state. We're going to see if there's any clues in here. So we're going to take a look at the awaiting decision map, and we're just going to confirm visually that we should have some sort of steel weapon or device option here. But instead, when we look at the actions, we see that there's a force drain available to us, but there's not any other actions that are available to us. And so then, shoot. I need to go one step back. So Gemp is going to, at regular intervals, come up with all the actions that the player is able to do, and then they are going to hand that list of actions to the client, and then the client is going to draw borders on all the appropriate cards. So we need to find where Gemp is investigating the game state, where Gemp is saying, okay, what actions does Lightside have available to them? And I believe that that is done in the game state itself. I'm going to have to see if I can remember where exactly that was, because this is a bit of a leap that you just have to kind of know where that decision is being made. Now I got to remember where the heck that was. I should have written that down. No, it's not going to be the game. I bet it's going to be in the game state. Action. We're going to find anything. Iterate cards with required actions. So it might be something similar to this. Let's see if we can find where that cards with required actions. Okay, yeah. So it's going to be something like this. So these are helper functions for finding all the sorts of actions that might be available from a card that's in a particular pile, right? So let's go up one level and see who's calling that. So here, I found it just by going up just clicking here to the usages in IntelliJ. It'll tell you what particular thing is calling that. And so here we can find that there's a function called get top level actions, which is quite likely what we need to be looking for. So this default actions environment happened to be the class that is collating all that stuff. So when it is trying to figure out what actions are available for this player, we have to inspect the game state and find out which ones are there. So it's going to go through and it's going to iterate through all cards with optional actions. It's going to iterate opponent's cards with optional actions, and then it's going to iterate through all cards with card pile actions. So it's basically going through everything and finding where exactly, putting together what cards have an action available. So I'm going to put a breakpoint right here, and we are going to... where did my... Oh, come on. I had it open. There we go. And we are going to put a breakpoint a little bit sooner. We're going to put it right here. So because we're skipping all the way to the the control phase, first we're going to... no, we're just going to put a breakpoint right here, actually. We're going to hit debug, and we're going to wait for that little section in default actions environment to get hit, because we've already put the breakpoint over there, so it should zip us over there as soon as that code gets hit. So now we've been asked to get the top level actions for which player? For the dark side player. Okay, we don't care about the dark side player, so we're just going to hit play. We're going to keep going. We want the dark side, or sorry, we want the light side actions that are available. Okay, so now we are looking for light side player, and we need to see what the current phase is, right? So we need to find... Darn cat, get out of the way. So let's see if this tells us... Okay, we have the game state, and then the game state is going to have a current phase in here somewhere. Current phase. So we're currently in the activate phase. So actually, we don't care about activate actions. We want to keep going. So we're going to go again. We're still in activate phase. Now we're in control phase. What's the control phase that card activates in? Yeah, during your control phase. All right, so now we're still looking at dark side player, however. So we're going to hit play one more time, and we're going to wait for light side player. So now that it is the light side player and it is the control phase, we're going to try and figure out why on earth Kabe is not working. So we know that it's going to be a card that has an optional action because it's not something you have to do. So it's going to be in this particular function. So we're going to step into it. And this is going to start looping through every single card that is in play and asking that card, do you have an action available? So I'm going to put a breakpoint right here. And this is going to tell us that we are checking the first card that we're going to see that's in play is Tatooine. We don't care about Tatooine, so I'm going to hit play again. Bespin, again, don't care about that card. The next card that we find is not a location. It is Han with Heavy Blaster Rifle, again, not one we care about. This one's Chewbacca, not one we care about. We're going to keep going until we hit Kabe. We got a lot of people. There we go. So now we are investigating Kabe. We are checking to see, do you have any particular actions that we are gonna that we can offer to the player. So we're going to skip through this, and then it gets down to this physical card visitor.visit card. If this particular check passes, then we return true. We say yes, in fact, that this. Wait a minute, this is a Boolean.
Is that going out and querying the text of the card?
It's going to, yeah, it is going to be asking the card, basically, all the different actions that are on the card. Are you available? Okay, I remember now. So the card visitor is going to be doing its own recording. It's gonna keep a list of all the cards that do have something. And what this is doing when it returns true is it's just saying, yes, in fact, there is a card somewhere that does have an optional action. So we're just going to step right into this, into the do visit physical card. So we'll just keep stepping into it. And so now we can see, all right, well, we're not during an attack run, so we skipped right past that. Now we get to the top level actions. So so we're going to step into that. We're getting the top level actions of this particular card. And now you can see that it's going to be doing some checks. It's going to check to see if it's in play. It's going to check and see if it's the particular phase for that player. So let's skip through these or check through them and see how it does. So we have confirmed, now that we've skipped past this, that particular card is in play. So it hasn't violated that particular condition. Is it the right phase for that player? It's not. Okay, so that's already told us something. I think that we may be looking at the control phase for the dark side player. And Kabe here may be saying during your control phase. So we may have already failed that particular setup. So I'm going to hit play again. We're going to come back up to iterate cards with optional actions. We're going to skip back up to that first call that we were at, because I think that we need to keep going until we are at the light side control phase. So I'm going to hit play again. Player ID is light side player. Where did I find the current phase? We're going to go to the game state, and then current phase was down here somewhere, right there. Control. Okay, so we're still in control phase. We're going to hit play again, and indeed, yes, we were. I failed to take into account the fact that we skipped to the light side player's phase, and by skipping to the light side player's phase, we have to, or their turn, we have to skip through all the dark side phases first. So now we're in the deploy phase. We're going to skip past that. And then we fell back in. Wait a minute. Why did that reset my thing here? Game state. Card phase is deploying. All right. So we'll just keep skipping through here. We want to get all the way to the light side. Okay, so there's the dark side battle. So we're still skipping. We need to find our way to the light side control phase. We're now in the move phases. It's going back and forth. Draw phase of the dark side. End of turn. Between turns. Now we're at the activate phase for light side player. So now we're at activate. Keep going. They're doing a lot of actions because light side is in fact activating force, and so there's going to be a lot of responses back and forth and back and forth. Control phase. Okay, so we're finally in the control phase for the light side player. We should now find ourselves in a situation where we can in fact find Kabe's ability. So we're gonna go through this again. we want to be hitting that breakpoint and finding when it is checking Kabe. We're back to that loop that we were in before. And we just need to make sure that we are in fact looking at Kabe. So here is Tatooine, Bespin. Let's scroll down. So that's Han, that's Chewbacca, that's Princess Leia, there's Kabe. So now we keep going through all these, and now we find ourselves back in this loop where we had found ourselves before, where we had skipped out. Why is this a different loop? I don't know why this is a different loop. This is looking for optional after triggers. So the particular...
Probably responding to start of control phase.
You know what? Yeah, that might be the case. So this is, yeah, start of phase. You're absolutely right. So we're going to play one more time. We don't care about this particular section. We want to go again. All right, so we're back in the control phase, still light side player. Let's try one more time. Effect results. Let's look at the effect results before we move on to make sure that we are in fact in the correct place. This is still the start of phase result. All right, so play again. Where did it go? Oh, this is in the top level actions because I left the breakpoint there. Oh no! I got rid of the wrong breakpoint. Now I'm stuck all the way over here. Oh, lovely. Okay, I'm going to jump back over here into the default actions environment. We are going to look at optional actions. I'm just going to try and wiggle my way into the particular section that was important. This is stacked cards. Complete physical, spot count, it's this one. We need to do physical. It's not before actions? I think those are still triggers.
Like other top level actions.
Yeah.
Towards the bottom.
Where did it go?
Second from the bottom one.
Yeah, there we go. Got the top level actions. So this should be where we ended up, right? Where we're trying to find the particular top level actions of that particular individual. Once we are here, yeah, another interface. This should have. Please take me to the. Okay, this is going to take us to an abstract.
Deployable?
Yeah, good call. Okay, so we're not doing transfers, we're not breaking cover, we're not moving, we're not firing weapons from game text, we're not in the hand. Oh, great. Oh, I wish I had recorded exactly where it was. For the sake of brevity, let me just regale you with the tale, I suppose. Once I managed to get down to the correct iteration of one of those nested loops, I found myself in a situation where the card was attempting to gather up a list of all of the equipment that was currently on the table so that it could loop through all of them and say, hey, is this equipment that I can steal? And one of the if-else statements that was in there was checking to see if it was character equipment. And that would and every time I went through that particular breakpoint, I would follow the code and it would get to that section where it said, hey, is this piece of equipment a character equipment? It's not, therefore we're not going to include it in the list, therefore Kabe does not have any abilities available. And so what I ended up discovering was that I had in fact utilized the wrong abstract class here. I should have used an abstract character device, and that was the thing that actually made was make or break for that situation. So my apologies for the rather poor demonstration of the exact situation, but my point is that going through the process of jumping into the code and just kind of following what the code is doing based on the actions that you have entered here in your tests are a great way for jumping in and figuring out if what is going wrong with your with the code. Yeah, this doesn't look like a very good demonstration. I should have done better work to set that up and make it look good. But hopefully that makes sense as far as the sort of things that you ought to be doing. And so let's try and actually.
You would have ended up on Cabe, and then looked in there. There would have been a filter.
Oh, you know
probably.
what? That might have been the thing that I was missing.
Because
so.
in abstract deployable, it would have called get top level game text actions.
Oh, that's
that
right. That's
would have
it.
sent you to
That
Cabe.
was it. Yeah. So I had a breakpoint in Kabe herself, and then yeah, you have all this stuff that is about targeting the card on the table, and then we have to get down here to figure out does she have anything to target, right? And then the modifiers querying. Where did that get called? Okay, that's a little bit later.
So all that code gets called by the card visitor?
Yes, so that card visitor is going to be inspecting each and every card. It's going to ask you, hey, what top level actions do you have available for the control phase or whatever phase it happens to be? And this is so that's why each card has to say, okay, what is this is how it would fail, right? Kabe is set up to say once during your phase, and it has to be the control phase, right? And so if it violates that particular assumption, then it immediately exits from here, and Kabe says, yes, I have no actions available, right? So I think
line 62 is where it would have that check there. It would have failed. Because what it's trying to target is a weapon that it is allowed to target to steal.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you've read my mind and figured out where I ended up. This is looking very familiar. So I ended up in one of these game conditions with a filter, and so I ended up going into the filter for that for Kabe's targeting, where she's targeting a character device, and in the bowels of one of these filters. It got to the point where it was doing a check and saying, hey, is this a device? Yes. Is it a character device? No. And that's where it would then exit and return nothing. So yeah, I'm glad you were able to read and see how that would work. But yeah, so I used the system quite a bit when figuring out the intricacies of developing these cards, just checking my assumptions and figuring out, what exactly is that code doing. I should step right into it, and it gives you a very good jumping off point, because of course you're going to have the scenario set up exactly the way you need to, and now I can put my breakpoints all throughout the actions environment, the modifiers querying or on the card itself, and immediately get feedback when the game progresses to the point where that's getting checked. Okay, so I think we're probably only going to have time for one of these, because this has taken a little bit longer than I thought to get Son of Skywalker stuff all put together. But let's take a look at one of these manual test scenarios that the Gergall put together, and let's just kind of translate these to some test cases. So you gave me 3, I believe. Gergall, which one of these do you think was the simplest situation? I haven't actually read much of
the
them.
third one isn't even totally a scenario. It is a follow-up on a request from the previous call. Someone, it might have been VHD, said, hey, can we make something where it's easy to check if characters have been programmed with the correct traits and icons? Do you remember? I don't know if that sounds familiar or not.
Yeah, that's has these and no other keywords, icons.
Yeah.
Properties.
So that is definitely doable. The thing that the way that I would go about doing this is, let me see. I have somewhere on here the JSON. There we go. So let's pull this up.
Just catching cases like a card is accidentally programmed to have the episode 1 icon when it shouldn't, that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I would do for that, because I have already done this for Lord of the Rings, is that I would take my source of truth, and I don't know if you guys have a source of truth that is truthier than the JSON files that y'all are using, but I would write a utility that goes through this right? Because this is going to have many of those characteristics. It's going to have the exact amounts on the stats. It's going to have the stuff in the lore that you need to look for. That takes this and spits out test cases for every single card. That is how I would do that.
Yep.
And I could show you the utility.
Oh no, you don't need to.
Okay.
You don't need to do that. That's so. Yeah, we can definitely write one that says, it goes to Han and it says, okay, is Han a smuggler, and is he a gambler, and is he a pirate, and is he a rebel, and does he have a pilot icon, and does he have a warrior icon?
Yeah.
That is simple. The request was, can we also set up the reverse? Can we make sure that he's not a spy and not a leader? And we could handle the creation of a master list of all the things that he shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
But we were kind of looking for a little help to get that started. Like what a test case might look like. And then if we had one, we could spit out 1,000 more.
Yeah, let's okay. Well, let's take a look at what that would look like then. Wrong Gemp. So let's go make one down here in the rules text. So let's just do one for
So all the possible options for like icons are set up as just a big list of them, right? Enumerations or something.
Yeah. There's going to be an enum for most of them. So let me wipe out most of this and just get a good clean situation.
I should mention to VHD or anyone planning to like spit out 1,000 of these tests. If you're planning to use the JSON to create these tests and then compare them against Gemp, you will most likely find some errors in Gemp, but you'll also get a lot of errors where it'll turn out that it's the JSON that's wrong. You'll have to compare them and see, which of these is actually incorrect.
And that was
in many cases
that we ran into that exact issue with Lord of the Rings. I was actually extremely happy when I discovered that somebody had made a data dump of the old Lord of the Rings Online official client from Decipher, and that had card data. So I took that card data, compared it to the community curated master spreadsheet that we had all been using for years, and between the two of them, they were able to self-correct because we were able to find, oh, look, there's 24 errors that these two things don't agree with. And so now we've got an extremely ironclad, robust set of stats that because we have that independent set of things to reference. But if you don't have that, about the only thing you can do is check everything by hand, right? Whether that's, in the form of a spreadsheet or a wiki or something like that. So...
Well, I'd be very happy to update any errors in the JSON as well as in Gemp. As long as we find discrepancies between the two, it'll be easy to fix them.
Yeah. Decide which one is incorrect at that time.
We just need someone else to volunteer to find them.
Right. And, as a first step, writing something that will go through and, check every single card, if there happens to be 100 errors, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is Gemp that is wrong there, but that is a starting point at least. Okay, so let's do some trait looping. I don't know what else to call this, so I'm just gonna call it whatever. So when you have an enum like this, right? So let's just hop over to the card type enum, and we can see here that this enum has all the different card types that you might possibly have. And so if you're trying to confirm not only that your card is one type, but that it is not all the other types, then what you can do is you can loop through enums. There is a way, in fact, to get all the values and turn that into a loop.
Yeah, they have a native iterator or something.
So yeah, something like that. And so I will start doing that here for, well, we could do it for side too. Not that really matters, but let's just start with card type. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to reference something in my Lord of the Rings Gemp real quick because I know that I have a section that does exactly that. And it is going to be in my
It just so while you're looking at that, I mean,
Mhm.
what I was thinking of when they said that is creating some helper function that you pass in the, like if it's an icon, you pass in the icons, I want it to include this, and then have that function iterate through everything, and if it
Sure.
has one that doesn't match the list, it returns false.
Right. Yeah,
If
that
it
would. So
doesn't have it,
you would have to be careful with that. That you set it up in such a way that it can be flexible enough to include all the different icons that you might have, for instance, because we don't want it to. You want to design it in a way. It kind of reminds me of the spot overrides. How you have to have a way of saying I want this and I don't want that. Like you need to be able to communicate that you have to include this set of icons, but I want no other icons that aren't on this list, right? So you do have to engineer it in a way that works. I think that we can probably get away with just saying here's the canonical list of icons. If any icon shows up not on this list, then this card should fail, right? I'm going to write it as if it was just a one-off for this particular card. However, it would be pretty trivial to take that loop and just hide it behind a function, right? And I'll write it in a way that should be pretty straightforward there. Let me think. So this is going to be in the. Sorry, this code that does exactly what I want. I'm just trying to remember where the heck it went. Oh, card field. That's it. So I can go into any one of these, and you don't have one, of course. Hinder, you have one. Here we go. Yeah. So there's going to be a loop in here for enums, I think. Is it just value of? That doesn't seem right to me. I had something that was checking every single. Can't think of it. So for x in card type dot get, no, is it enum dot
values of.
get values of? There we go. Value of.
So it would be card type dot values or something.
Oh yeah, it might be. Yeah.
I don't think you need the enum.
So just
card type dot, and then I think it's values.
there we go. Yes,
Yeah.
there we go. And so then we would loop through every single one of them. And okay, so actually let's do the icon one, right? Because the icon one we do have a whole list here. So for icon in the icon.values, we are going to want to put together allowed icons equals new array list. Hey, come on now. And we're just going to say is add, yeah. Okay, so we want rebel, pilot, warrior, and so on. Okay, so we have this list of icons that is just the icons that this card is supposed to have and nothing else. So we are going to loop through every single icon that exists. We're going to say if icon is not, hang on, if allowed icons does not contain, no, other way around. Hang on, let me think. So we want to loop through the entire list, and we want to make sure that
I
all of
think you
these
do want
icons
to
are
check
present.
both ways. So either one. So if
Yeah,
allowed icons contains the icon, then save it. Like make sure that the card has it. If allowed
Right.
icons doesn't contain the icon, make sure the card doesn't have it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So if it doesn't have it, then assert, or sorry, okay, so this allowed
So
icon
here
is
it
in
does
here.
have it. So we want to assert true
Yeah, we want
that
to
it
say,
has the icon.
yeah, card dot has icon, yeah. Icon, and if not, actually we could just say else. It's not really any. So if the icon was not in the allowed icons list, then we need to explicitly assert that the card does not have that icon. That's pretty much it. That's what that would look like. And then it would just be a matter of wrapping this in a function so that it accepts the list of allowed icons and then does this. And so then we'd have to do that for every single kind of enum on here, right? We'd have to do it for card type. We'd have to do it for, well, that might be it actually. Icons, card type,
Persona. There's various things.
Oh yeah, persona. Yeah,
Card
so
can have
there's
more than one persona in it.
right. Yeah. So that's essentially what it would look like, right? And so then we could take this. I'm gonna go slap it into
And like male and
framework.
female, I think also.
I think those fall under characteristic, but I don't recall. I'd have to check the
Okay,
rule book. But
yeah.
They may count as keywords.
It's in keyword, yeah, but cards
Default
generally
code.
don't have keyword male.
Yeah, it's kind of the default assumed.
Owen and Baru do, because it specifically is male and female, so it has to give it that.
Let's see, SoS CCG card blueprints, BP, and then we will say collection of. So this is actually just going to be an icon check here, I think. Now you could make this just a big giant function that passes in every single one of the different traits and then include all the different loops in here. But for now, I'll just assume, for instance, that this is just taking a. Well, let's just say a list.
Yeah, I think doing each of the different enums separately is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Same.
We'll just say allowed icons, and then we'll change
And
this.
I
This is
don't
checking
think
it out.
it's going to be an issue with the number of icons, like 2 warrior icons for Tonica Sisters, right? Like, as long as it has it, that's good enough.
That is
Yeah, and then you could add a
interesting. I don't know.
separate check.
Yeah, you
You
can
would
add
want to
a
add a separate check.
one-off
if
check
it
for
has-
that.
If it's supposed to have multiples.
Yeah, because I think the only reason that this was even a question is because they wanted to do a negative test as well as a positive test. And unless you really want to go and check to make sure that all of these are not having 2 copies of every icon, I think that you could probably just leave that off and just do the positive check and say, do they have 2 copies of the thing?
Yep.
So I've added this blueprint icon check, and so now down here. Oh, whoops! No, I just want to do it up here. So I've made my list of allowed icons. So now I can check scene dot icon check, blueprint icon check. We're passing in the card that we're checking. We're passing in the allowed icons that we have made. And in fact, I can just kind of do this. That should work. Yep. And so now that's going to be calling that shared location, and it's going to, because it is actually doing the assertions inside. So we have our assert true, we have our assert false, so we don't have to do it on the outside. So that's essentially what that would look like, right? It's just adding a new function to the
Yeah.
to it, and yeah, then it's just a matter of repeating that for every kind of trait. Not every card has every kind of trait, so you'd have to figure out how exactly you wanted to handle that. My card generator stuff for the for Lord of the Rings just has a very big messy set of if-else statements, and it goes through and says, okay, well this particular card doesn't care about personas, so we're not going to include the persona checking stuff. This particular card doesn't have gender, so we're not going to bother checking the gender stuff, and so on.
Yeah, I would imagine it would work even if you didn't have a persona, right? You just pass in an empty list and it would pass all the checks.
Yeah, just make sure it doesn't somehow have one of the other personas. Seems like it'd work fine.
Yeah, like your generic stormtrooper, you run that test with a, check against the personas with the empty list of valid personas, and it should go through and verify everything.
Yeah, if you pass in an empty list here, so long as it doesn't have any icon at all, then it will pass. But if it has any icon, then it will fail. Which I guess is what you want, right? Because you want to...
Yeah.
Yeah, you want everything to be explicitly set and not implicitly. But yeah,
Cool.
I mean that's all that would require is just a series of these, and then rewriting your.
And then a blueprint persona check and a blueprint.
But they would
whatever the
all
other ones
just look
are.
like this, right? Like
Yeah.
you'd be passing in a list of all the stuff that you care about and omitting everything you don't. That's definitely a lot cleaner than that. Another possibility is a map. If number of icons is something that comes up with some frequency, then you can be passing in a map instead with where the key would be the icon and the value would be the number, and then
It's rare-ish, but it's not like super rare. Yeah,
I think it's rare enough that I wouldn't pass in a map,
Yeah.
but just a list is fine.
Yeah,
and then
and you
the
could
card,
explicitly say we
Yeah.
expect to see 2 warrior icons
And
on
yeah,
a,
so
the
just do
rear
a
Oh
sec-
yeah,
card.
you
just
could
do a-
just do it. Yeah, you could do it on the
just do a
individual
second
card by
check.
card basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
just
point.
down below, assert equals 2 for warrior icons.
Good point.
right, because it would just
Hey,
be...
VHD, are you planning to kind of run with this, or are you anticipating doing this? I'm
I-
just curious before I.
I don't mind diving in. I may be looking for help. As he can attest to, I already bugged him a bunch today about kind of getting me started on some of the test fixture stuff.
Okay, no, I'm not trying to assign it to you or anything. I was just asking. If you do decide to jump into this and you need help with like going through the JSON or like figuring out differences between the way things were stored on the JSON versus how they're stored in Gemp or anything, just let me know. If you even decide that this is something you're going to be working on.
Yeah, I don't know about automating at that level, but at least getting the functionality set up and maybe validating it on a few characters and stuff.
If you set up some cards, I could even do the program that turns JSON into a bunch of tests if I had some tests to kind of copy off of.
Yeah, definitely the biggest thing that I ran into while doing that was running into all the edge cases, right? Is discovering that, oh yeah, there's this particular card has 2 card types. What the hell? Like, and so now I have to put support for that into the whole thing. And,
No, we would definitely hit all kinds of things
yeah.
like that. Absolutely we will, but that's okay.
But yeah, I highly recommend having something like that. That's actually the very first thing that I do when doing card development. So over here on Lord of the Rings, we have gotten started on our V3, and so all of these boilerplates were completely generated automatically. So you can see even the helper bit comment that has all the stuff from the cards, and then all of the individual stats are being automatically checked, and then we just have a boilerplate test that's commented out and ready to be edited by anybody coming along. This makes it very, very easy to just hand stuff off and say, okay, yeah, here you go. This has got the basis of the particular test for that particular card. You can now run with that. So
Awesome.
okay,
Very, very powerful, very powerful system.
Yep. Absolutely. It's definitely allowed us to punch above our weight class when it comes to the amount of like manpower and stuff that we have. So, and it's allowed us the amount of rewrites that this has let us do has been huge. Like I may have mentioned recently that we last year we translated all of our cards from Java to JSON. So now 100% of our cards are done with just JSON definitions, and I wouldn't have had any hope of testing that kind of stuff if we didn't have the automated testing that would allow us to double check and make sure that we did not, accidentally delete a whole segment of the code or something that handled skirmishing or something while we were doing that massive rewrite. So it definitely opens up a lot of interesting tech. So
Thank you so much for going over it even more once again.
Yeah.
Been very, very enlightening and educational.
no
Yeah, I
problem at
think
all.
implementing the game mechanics tests is going to be really cool because you can go through the advanced rulebook and see, oh, this is how reacts are supposed to work in detail, write tests to show that it works that way, and yeah, we may find a few that don't.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good kind of ongoing project to have, is just saying that, okay, today we're going to sit down and we're just going to make sure that everything that has to do with the cumulative rule is bulletproof in Gemp or something. And so you sit down and you put together all the different rules and figure out, okay, well, here's 10 or 20 different test cases that we've identified. Then you can go from there, digitize them, and then from there, like, your system just gets more and more and more robust the more that you keep doing that and the more you keep adding to it. The number only goes up, right? And we've already got 130 some odd tests here, 136 I think on Star Wars. Lord of the Rings is a little bit ahead of the curve. We've got 4,800 now, but it takes a surprisingly small amount of time for that number to really get kind of crazily big. So yeah, so I'm excited to see, and in fact, even just with the stuff that we did before, I said 132 before, but now there's 144 with the stuff that we did today. One of them's already
Yeah,
found.
I wrote 2 more today that are not submitted yet.
Well, that's terrifying. Why is that failing? That was.
You changed.
Did I change something?
Should this have been dark side pay battle damage? But it was working before because.
Oh, it was working before. Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah.
It was. So I fixed it, not realizing that. Okay, yeah, that so this one was having dark side pay the battle damage, and it was like, okay, yeah, it's working. Okay, that's hilarious. So that's gonna have to go actually fix that one.
All you have to do is change it right here, right, to dark side.
Assuming that
If it is
dark side that it was supposed to be paying, I'm not sure what the context here is.
I assume that it is, and that's why it used to work.
Yeah, and that's why it was working before. So just change
exactly.
to dark side instead of light side should. But yeah, you'd have to.
So who initiated the battle?
Sure
We have.
that's right.
We're skipping to the light side battle, and then.
Yeah, you've got Boba Fett in a lift tube.
Oh yeah, this is that one edge case where we were checking to make sure that when the captive burying the furious captive goes back into or tries to go back into the lift tube,
it's too full.
It's too
and
full,
they can't
and
go
it
in.
can't. Yeah, so if I switch this to dark side, it probably will just work. And I think that because looking at this particular step, it doesn't look like it had to do like we cared about the battle damage. We were just trying to skip past it so that
you just needed to
so that we could
satisfy
get to the
whatever
rest.
was there.
So switching that name was all. And so I had no idea which order was supposed to be going on, right? I just said, hey, yeah, get me past this so that I can get to the end of the battle.
Maybe there could be a both players satisfy all of their battle damage.
Yeah, we'll probably have to have something like that at some point.
Like, yeah, only one player will have it, but you could have satisfy battle damage instead of saying which player has to do it.
Yep, and as soon as people start getting into tests that do in fact involve some complicated battles with lots of different stuff going on either side, I highly advise someone doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across one today where I can already tell it's going to be useful to have something to repetitively choose cards until there's nothing left to choose. Like if you're selecting 10 cards that have to be lost and you have to pick what order, that sort of thing.
You'll find that a lot of the stuff that exists in the framework is exactly because at one point I had a test case that had like 20 repeated statements, and I said, this is stupid. This needs to go in a function. And that's like at least a third to a half of the entire test rig by weight is me getting frustrated with needing to copy paste stuff so often. So, and you'll also find that a lot of the functions in here are themselves using their own helper functions, because even just writing the just light side and dark side twice was too much, and so I had to make a shared functionality where both functions would call that inner helper function. So yeah, I mean it's all about not repeating yourself so much, right? So utilize it to the fullest. All right. Well, we didn't get through quite everything, but are there any other miscellaneous questions anyone's got before we wrap up the stream here?
I think I'm good.
Right
Yeah,
on.
I think the hands-on stuff earlier I did today with you helped out a lot too.
Yeah. Just jump in, right? Like it's just copy paste one of them and start editing it for the card that you're looking at. There's not a whole lot to it, but it's not until you get your hands on it that you really start to realize how straightforward it can be. But
yeah, like overall, it doesn't seem that complicated. Just
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is very helpful.
I got
Alright.
hung up on just one or two small things, but once those were out of the way, it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and wrap up the stream here. I'll hit stop right now. Thanks for watching on YouTube or wherever you happen to be hearing this from.